So, Darcy, let me begin with a question for you. So, how did the idea of Women 17 originate? And especially, why did you choose the medium of a podcast rather than another medium to showcase global women who are changing the world one sustainable development goal at a time?
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Agatha. So as you highlighted and Mia had highlighted, I've worked in the diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as sustainability and leadership development space for a number of years. I'm also a coach and a mentor to women. And I was looking for an opportunity to take my professional experience, coupled with my keen interest to support women and my passion around the sustainable development goals. I was looking for some outlet for this. And so about a year and a half ago, I was in Singapore on a business trip, and I was having a coffee with a former colleague of mine by the name of Rosa Quidiamo. And Rosa and I were chatting, and I was asking her lots of questions about what she was up to. And through the course of this conversation, I had this epiphany moment, if you like, about how I could sort of link all of these things together. Now, you're going to need to go and listen to the podcast with Rosa to find out a little bit more about what she's doing. But what was interesting to me is that for Rosa and many of the women that have participated in the Women 17 podcast, that their work began with a question. That sense of curiosity and asking a question and uncovering a need in their local communities. So that's a little bit about how Women 17 started. Why I chose podcasting is I'm an avid podcast listener. I listen to a whole bunch of them all the time. And I thought that podcasting was a great way to access a global community. And, you can listen to a podcast, walking the dog, driving, washing the dishes, what have you. So I thought it was a really good medium in order to convey these women's accomplishments and the organizations that they support.
Yes, thank you so much. I definitely agree about the podcast format. I've also learned about so many of these issues relating to sustainability and to women through this format. So I think it's amazing that you're doing this. So the podcast, if not any of you knew, is fortnightly. So over the course of the year, Women 17 will have around 20 women onto their podcast. So Darcy, you told us a little bit about how you choose the women and why you select them, but could you tell us a little bit more about this process and this process of essentially getting several guests onto your podcast?
Sure. Yeah, that's right. So far, I started in June of 2020. So far, I've interviewed 12 women. The number 13 will be released in about 10 days, and that focus is on Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is life below water. To be honest, finding women has happened quite organically. For example, Felicity, I know she lives in my community, and I've actually volunteered with Lake Aid. And Shanta came to me from my global network of people that I know. So people have come to me from all different directions. But as far as the selection of women is concerned, I'm really keen to highlight women who are contributing, doing very interesting and meaningful work in their local communities. But I have to say, a lot of them aren't seeking accolades. They're very passionate about what they're doing. I have had to use my powers of persuasion sometimes to convince them that their story needs to be told. But yeah, so it's really a global effort, if I can say that.
How do you think that young individuals like me, for example, can best educate or gear ourselves towards addressing these sustainable development goals? And the second part, how can older generations, especially those who maybe think that too far down their career or they've already got other interests and they can't really transition anymore, how can they really shift their perspective and also start fostering change?
Great question. So yeah, I would say that, for younger individuals, and actually I think my answer will be applicable across all demographics. I think it's imperative that we as human beings understand our impact on this planet and our existence. And and really to be curious, going back to what I said earlier, and I think what Shanta has reiterated, as well as Felicity, asking questions and challenging the status quo, because quite honestly, the status quo is really no longer acceptable. As for learning, there are a lot of resources available. I would direct people of all ages to go to the UN Global Compact's website for information on how you and learning on the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly related to business. There are a lot of indicators under each of the SDGs. I wouldn't get stuck up in that. I would just focus at a high level to get some understanding. Another place I would point you to, and I think, Agatha, you're going to share these links, would be the SDG Business Hub, which has a link in there to the Good Life Goals. And the Good Life Goals are wonderful because they take the Sustainable Development Goals and show applicability towards individuals and what you as an individual can do in order to contribute to the SDGs. So having said all that, I would not get super hung up on certainly understanding the SDGs, but I think the most important thing is to basically go out and do good work in your community and contribute to the prosperity of your community, and then the link to the SDGs will automatically happen. Lastly, to the other part of your question about older generations, I've found that that actually people are, particularly in a COVID time, and businesses, it's a business imperative right now to address a lot of the systemic challenges that we face related to the Sustainable Development Goals. So I see a lot of people leaning into the SDGs that are of an older generation, such as myself, and looking at, I've got this wonderful long career of marketing, business development, supply chain, whatever it might be, and actually harnessing all of that and leading with and contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think that across all generations, we all have a part to play, and I have a lot of hope also. So yeah. Get involved. I'd say that's it. Get involved.
Thank you so much, Darcy. That's so great to hear.